Hello, everybody. This is Richard Trammell and Pat Zgambo, and welcome to our first podcast, and we are the Karate Guys.
On the ground floor of a new movement over here.
Okay. All right. So this is our first episode, and we're going to tell you a little bit about who we are. First, I'm going to ask Pat to tell you about his journey and how. First of all, Pat, how did you get into karate?
Most people nowadays, I loved anime and video games and always wanted to be like one of those characters, be a fighter and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I used to be really shy, not very assertive. I probably still have some issues there, but it's gotten better. So I took a job as a bouncer at a bar, and I actually worked with one of your former students and with someone you've fought with, Harris Woods. You took him to...
Yes, Harris Norwood. Harris Norwood.
So he's a WKF champion?
So Harris is a WKA Thai boxing champion. He's also an MMA veteran. He's also won we did a Shidokan Team USA in Atlanta, and he was the 2006 lightweight winner. And then that same year, he was runner-up, second place in the Shidokan World Open. So Harris Norwood, who one of these days we might have to have Harris on the show. You worked with him at the Dark Horse as a bouncer.
Yeah, and I used to joke with them. I'd be like, all that karate stuff, all that kickboxing, I could take you guys any day. So Zach recommended I come train at the gym. I tried training for about 2-3 weeks, and then my high blood pressure and diabetes made me have some issues.
So tell us about that. So when you first came, you had some health issues.
Yep.
And tell us about that.
So I was about 270 pounds. I'd get lightheaded and get bloody noses, and I had concussion-like symptoms one day, and I went to my doctor, and he told me I need to get into shape.
Okay.
And so at that point, I decided, he actually told me I shouldn't train either, which I thought was a bit silly. Luckily, I still wanted to support the gym. You guys already treated me like family. It was only like a month in, so I came and record classes, and I would train at home. And doing that every day, monitoring my blood pressure, it started to lower, and my diabetes symptoms over the course of about a month.
Yes.
Yeah, they went away, and now I don't have any of those problems, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. And they were like really bad, like I'd have trouble walking upstairs. Right. I had trouble in relationships because my blood pressure was that high, that kind of stuff that you don't want to talk about. And after I came back, I decided to do a tournament in 90 days, and I went through that. I used to teach guys how to be confident at clubs, and they told me I didn't know what it was like to do something difficult and to be afraid. Gotcha. I was a horrible fighter. I'm okay now.
No, there's no such thing. As long as you get out there and you try, you're good. You're doing awesome.
So on YouTube every week, I would post videos of me training at the gym, getting ready for this fight. Yep. And then after the fight was over, I lost, but it was such a great experience that I was sold. So since then, just recently in October, I competed in Japan in the Intercontinental 36 Shidokan Championship, and I won in my division, which was very exciting.
It's the annual International Shidokan Cup, which is held in Tokyo every year, and which is, we're talking about over probably 35 years. So let me ask you this. So one thing we know that karate will help you is get you in great health. Mm-hmm. And beyond the fighting aspect, the competing aspect, you said that there's a family environment at the dojo. And how do you feel that, or how do you feel you related to your classmates at the dojo?
I mean, they've been there for me for a lot of things that have happened in my life. Also, I don't want to say I'm soft, but I'm a kinder soul than most. A lot of those guys at the gym has had a rough life, and they've kind of helped me learn how to take that kind of energy into the world and function. I used to be intimidated by my bosses, but after you've had ex-convicts throw kicks at your heads at high speeds, your boss is a little less scary. And we're not calling any names. Your boss is a little less scary, so that helped me a lot.
Well, and with that being said, you've prior to going to compete in Japan, you did some full contact tournaments here in the Southeast. You went and competed in what we call bare knuckle karate, which is full contact. And the interesting thing about this particular sport, and like I said, how long have you been doing karate now?
3 years.
3 years. So, and you did your first bare knuckle fight maybe a year and a half in?
About a year and a half to 2 years.
So, and as you probably learn when you go there, and you might be a yellow or orange belt, doesn't matter what your rank is, when you show up, you might have to fight a black belt.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So
first fight against black belt.
the great thing about experiencing that, like you said, you overcome that, oh my gosh, this person is obviously more experienced than I am, and that makes you more nervous. So once you learn to deal with that, it gives you a different kind of mental strength and fortitude to deal with other, with more difficult things, other difficult things. So that's pretty cool. So tell me about your experience in Japan, Pat. So you went and fought in the Japan Cup. So tell everybody about that experience.
Okay, so that was my second time going to Japan. I went my first year right after I kind of got my blood pressure under control.
Yes.
My friends all saved up, got me tickets, which was very sweet. And then when I got down there, Mr. Trammell's friends at Shidokan showed me around. So it was awesome. It was kind of fun to be there and not to have to fight. It was a little less stressful.
Right.
But going to Japan for the tournament was, I had never been through like the back and forth of the tournament setup, all the unknowns and all that. It was a very stressful process. One thing that I found interesting is that like you don't have enough time to really be worried about all the things that are happening.
That's true. Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. So let's talk about the actual competition with the free. Now, both of your matches, I believe you had a bye, and then you had 2 matches. You had a semifinal and final match. Both of them went overtime.
Oh yeah,
right?
Definitely.
So, meaning you didn't just go out and it was just over real quick. You had to go and you had to fight hard.
Yeah. There's a joke you guys always say that when we punch people, you're like, did you just expect them to die? No,
right.
They don't just die.
And what did you learn about yourself after that experience?
I definitely could go farther than I thought. One thing I find funny is I don't have my glasses on with my fight, so I can't see my opponent's facial expression. I didn't realize how much people give up and like how far I had come, because I think both those people could have beat me if they just didn't give up. But there was a moment when they were getting thrown punches and kicks at the head that they decided they didn't want to be there anymore.
Well, and what I always tell you guys is that a lot of times it just boils down to, both competitors could be equal in skill, but sometimes it just boils down to who wants it most that day.
Oh, definitely.
And, you being in your corner and watching you compete, I said to myself, you definitely wanted it more that day, So that's very, very, very cool. Very, very cool.
I had been training every day,
yes,
3 times and 2 times a day for about 2.5 months.
Right.
I wanted to drink a beer, so
right.
I needed to win.
Gotcha. So you couldn't, unless he won, he could have a beer.
Yeah.
Especially you got good Japanese beer too, right? So that's very, very cool. So let me ask you this now. Now that you've had your first international experience, where do you see yourself going as a competitor? Do you desire to get back and maybe try some more international competitions, or where do you want to go as a competitor? And then secondly, as a martial artist, where do you want to go?
I don't think of myself as a competitor.
Right.
I understand why you say that. I mean, I've been in almost every tournament that's come up in the past 3 years.
Right.
But I just think that's a byproduct of training.
Gotcha.
Like, that's just how you test what
So
you've
let
learned.
me ask you this, which is harder, the training or getting out there and competing?
Specifically at Shidokan Atlanta, I'd say the training.
Right. So
no one has hurt me in the tournament as bad as some of the dates I had.
Okay, well, so basically the tournaments are a little light workout. I'm seeing.
Yeah.
It's a good opportunity.
Well, it's only what, 5-6 rounds if it's overtime. And,
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. So, but you, I will say you trained very hard and prepared. And like I said, win, lose, or draw, you get out there, you do your best, and you've progressed immensely from the time you started to where you are now as a martial artist and as a competitor.
Thanks, Sensei. But I don't know if I will compete that much longer.
Right.
But like when an offer comes up, I'm already training so often.
Right.
Why wouldn't I? It's not like anyone at the gym isn't in shape to compete ever. Does that
Very
make
good
sense?
point. Very good point.
So that's my thoughts there. So like this year, I don't. Are they even having an international
Well,
championship?
that's as far as well, because of the pandemic, I know a lot of events were canceled. You know, if anything will happen before the year is out, we'll just have to wait and see. And you know, hopefully, you know, maybe Japan. Hopefully, will still do their event. I know Costa Rica, Shidokan Costa Rica, has an event in November. You know, as of now, nobody knows. So if not this year, maybe something next year.
So I get to be reigning champ for this year,
right?
If it doesn't happen.
So if there's no Japan Cup
2 year
this
reigning
year,
champ.
right? Yeah, exactly, right. So that we just have to wait and see. And with that being said, I mean, we took a team to Japan. Yourself, we took Jarrell Bowman, one of our veteran fighters, John Vaughn, and then we also had the Matrix, AJ Weathersby. So there was four of you, and you are the
only non-pro fighter.
right, exactly. I mean, out of all of the guys that went, and this was your first international experience, and all the other guys had previous international experience, and some of them, you know, except us professionals. But I was going to say that you guys were the second group that we've sent to compete in the Japan Cup. The first being Vinny and Rhonda Balsamelo. And we will have Vinny Balsamelo on our show. We call him, I guess, the powerhouse of Shidokan Atlanta. You guys will meet him in the future. All right, so I guess I'll tell you a little bit about my journey in the martial arts. I started training in the martial arts as a child. At age 8, I started in the Korean martial art of Tong Sudo, and Taekwondo. And over the years, I started to see various martial arts. I've been in every martial arts movement I've seen. You know, the traditional martial arts, American kickboxing, Muay Thai, no holds barred, which eventually became MMA. So for me, I started off competing in sport karate, and then I got into Taekwondo. And then from there, I got into kickboxing and boxing. And through the boxing gyms, I met, various martial artists, because the interesting thing for martial arts during the 80s, like now you have like MMA gyms, you have like gyms that will have various different combat sports, have jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, boxing, etc. Back then, you did a traditional martial art. For example, you did karate, or you did taekwondo, you did kung fu, and then if you want to get into the full contact aspect of fighting, you had to go to a boxing gym. And I started training at a gym called Ace's Gym, which was the premier kickboxing gym, even though it was a boxing gym. And
was that in Georgia?
That was here in Atlanta, Georgia. And there was a gentleman by the name of Jeff Gripper, who we will be having on our show. Jeff Gripper is Atlanta's first world kickboxing champion. When I was a freshman in college, he was doing a demonstration. And he and his brother, they were doing a karate and kickboxing demonstration. And I was the kid that kept asking a million questions about kickboxing. And afterwards, he told me, he said to me, if you're interested in kickboxing, you need to go to this gym. And I went to Ace's Gym and started training there. And at that time, there were the top kickboxers worked out at that gym. There was a gentleman by the name of Jerry Rome, Jerry Trammell, Fast Eddie Jones, a well-known sport karate fighter named Tony Tony Young worked there. So I used to work out. I started working out there, and had the opportunity to meet some incredible fighters and other martial artists. Because, like I said, martial artists would come to the boxing gym because that was the place where you experience full contact.
So at this point, were you already a black belt in Taekwondo?
Yes, I was a black belt in Taekwondo already, and I go to Ace's gym, and all the guys that were kickboxing, like I said, they came from some traditional background, whether it be some Japanese style of karate, kung fu, etc. At the boxing gyms, I meet guys who also did Thai boxing. As a matter of fact, the first guys who were Thai boxers in Atlanta, I'll give you guys a little history here. I remember there was a guy named Larry McFadden and a guy named Tony Reed. The first time I ever got low kicked was by Tony Reed, okay? But from working out these gyms, I got to meet different martial artists, and it was an opportunity to share different training methods. And over time, from kickboxing, I got into boxing. I never had any intention to box, but there was a slow period in American kickboxing. The heyday of American kickboxing was 70s and 80s. So during the 80s, early to mid 80s, there was a weekly show called PKA, Kick of the 80s, and Joe Corley, who's who's famous in Atlanta, probably the most famous, the first guy to start a chain of karate schools. And he's also the guy who started the Battle of Atlanta, which is a very popular karate tournament, one of the top sport karate tournaments in the country that's been happening in Atlanta since the 70s. And Joe was promoting kickboxing, and he did everything. He was the commentator, he was a promoter, you name it, he did it. And he helped build the sport of kickboxing. So they had a show on ESPN, and it would show every week. And I remember watching the show as a teenager, and I said, hey, I want to be a kickboxer. And over time, I started training. And so by the time we get to the late 80s, the sport kind of went away. And it was hard to come by fights. And by the early 90s, one of my boxing coaches said to me, Rich, you should try, some boxing. And I said, well, I'm a karate man. I'm a boxer, I'm a karate man. And he said, well, you're in here working out with these boxers. I would spar with pure boxing, and I would spar with kickboxers, and I was working out some really good guys. Had the opportunity to work out with a couple guys who were good bronze medalists in the Olympics. A guy named Roshai Wells, he was an 88 bronze medalist Olympian. A guy named, that Roshai Wells was a 96 bronze medalist. A guy named Ramalis Ellis, he was an 88 Olympic bronze medalist. I got to work out with some of the top pros in the Atlanta area at that time. So I said I may as well. So what I would do is if there wasn't a kickboxing match available, I would box. So, and I was still competing in Taekwondo tournaments. So I could compete in a Taekwondo tournament one weekend. The next weekend I could kickbox. The following weekend I would box. And moving forward, by the mid-90s, and like I said, I met some guys who were into Thai boxing, and I started seeing Thai boxing on ESPN2. And during that time, ESPN would show, now it's a major sports network, but it used to be that network that would show sports that you didn't normally see. So late at night, you might see bare knuckle karate. I remember seeing the Sabaki Challenge on ESPN, bare knuckle karate. You'd see Shidokan, which is what we do now. And I'll get to that, how we got into Shidokan in a moment. So Muay Thai was becoming very, very popular. And I ended up meeting a guy named Pedro Villalobos. And we became training partners. And I would share my boxing knowledge with him. He'd share his Thai boxing knowledge with me. And over time, we eventually started a gym, and we started training Muay Thai fighters. And by the late 90s, Muay Thai was very popular, and I was at a stage in my life where I had retired the first time, and I saw the Shidokan on ESPN, and the Shidokan was known as the triathlon of martial arts. And for me, it had everything that I loved about martial arts. It had the karate, it had the kickboxing, and also with the early 90s, we had the UFC. Mm-hmm. So you had Hoist Gracie came on the scene, then you had grappling, and everybody started cross-training. And I went to a seminar in the mid-90s. There was a guy.
How old were you at this point?
So I'm probably maybe say mid-20s. Okay. But now I'm 53, right? So if we go back to by the time I was in my mid-20s, I had already done a lot of Taekwondo. I boxed as an amateur and professional boxer, and same with kickboxing. I went from amateur to pro kickboxing. And so by the time I was in my late 20s, I met a guy named, this is how I got into the grappling sports. I'm kind of all over the place here. One of my friends from Taekwondo, a guy named Eric, he was a collegiate Taekwondo champion, and we're sitting in a coffee shop, and I said to him, hey, I'm interested in judo. And because I'd gone to a seminar, and there was a guy who did judo and jiu-jitsu, and I went to a seminar, had a really good time, and something about judo, I said, man, I really want to learn some judo. And a Taekwondo friend of mine, his instructor, a guy named Nakjun Kim, he had a dojo off of Windy Hill. It was called the Martial Arts College, and he taught judo, Taekwondo, Kendo, Japanese fencing. So Eric, my friend, referred me to him, and I go and I meet this older Korean gentleman and told him I was interested in judo, and he says to me, all right, come and try a class with me. And he said, I'm gonna count to 3, and I want you to try to take me down, throw me, do whatever you gotta do to get me on the ground. If you don't throw me by the time I count to 3, I'm gonna throw you. So every time he hit 3, I hit the mat. So after that, I was like, sign me up. So, and through him, I started doing Kendo also. And that just happened to be a byproduct of me training judo with him. He said, come and try it one day. And I said, I don't really want to do it. And he suggested I tried it, I liked it. So I would do judo and Kendo with Master Kim. So anyway, that's how I got into the grappling, and I just enjoyed it. And we, my friend Pedro and I, we even went to see, when Hoist Gracie came to Atlanta, I did a seminar. We went to the Hoist Gracie seminar. I went to, some of the top grapplers who were fighting in the no holds bars days before it became MMA. When it was NHB. As a matter of fact, Pedro, my friend, he fought in the first MMA or NHB events that were held here in Georgia. They were called the Submission Challenge, and then they later on became the Gauntlet MMA tournament put on by Matthew Waller in Macon. Hi, Matthew. So, make a long story short, like I said, I had these VHS tapes of the Shidokan that were recorded from ESPN. My brother would record everything, and he gave me these tapes, and I saw the Shidokan, and these guys were fighting bare knuckle karate, kickboxing, and grappling, all in one bout. They would do 2-3 rounds of each, and I thought that was real cool. And at the time, I was working in healthcare. Before I started doing the gym thing full time or dojo full time, I was working in healthcare, and I worked for Emory Clinic for a while, and when I left the Emory Clinic, and I guess I had to be about 28, that was my first retirement from fighting at age 28, and it lasted for maybe a year before I fought again. I got married my ex-wife, and I took a job and I traveled throughout the week because I was gone Monday through Thursday. And but what I would do, even when I was gone, any place I went, I would find a gym. And fortunately for me, when I traveled, I would be in one place for 3 months, one place 5 months, or another place 8 months, another place. So I'd have long enough assignments where I could be set up shop. I could have a second home.
Is that why whenever I go on vacation, a gym that I can?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, at least, or if you go to any other country with the Shidokan dojo, I can get you a place to work out. So, but what I would do is, no matter where I went, I would find a gym, and different gyms did different things. And I spent some time in Tampa. I worked out at a place and did they had a grappling and Thai boxing program. In Pennsylvania, I worked at a really good kickboxing gym, and I met a really good Muay Thai guy up in Boston, which at the time it was called Fairtex, but now it's Boston Muay Thai. And the guy who ran that gym, he lived in Thailand for 4 years and was very, very good instructor. Learned a lot with him. So anyway, by the time I decided I was going to enter a Shidokan tournament, like I said, I was traveling, and I decided to take a leave of absence, and I wanted to get into the gym business. I wanted to become a personal trainer. So I left my corporate job and became a gym rat.
So this is at 30?
This is at 20, probably 29.
And at this point, you already have what type of accolades in martial arts?
Okay.
Because I've seen your list;
right.
It's rather long.
So in Taekwondo, at the state level, I won some state championships, and then I got second in the nationals. As a matter of fact, they did the National Taekwondo Championship in Atlanta in '94 at the Georgia Dome. I got second at the national championship, and they used to have every other year. They used to have an Olympic Sports Festival, and that was a competition where Olympic level athletes will compete every other year to help them prepare for Olympics. Because if you remember, Taekwondo became an official Olympic sport in 2000, but in 1988 and in 1992, it was, I guess the 88 was the Seoul Games, so Taekwondo was featured. I don't know if it was a cultural sport or what they call it, spectator sport. Then it was in the 92 as a spectator sport in Barcelona. And then they skipped it in 96 because my goal at that time was I wanted to try to make an Olympic Taekwondo team. And I figured by the time 96 would be here, I'd be like 26. I was like, I'll be I'd be like 27, 28. So I knew it wasn't going to be in the 96 game. And I decided to focus on kickboxing and boxing back around 95. So by 1995, we knew that it was not going to be in the 96 Olympics. So that was the end of Taekwondo. My last Taekwondo tournament was 95. Okay, so I left Taekwondo and just said, okay, I'm just boxing, kickboxing. And then, so 97, I fight and win a United States, my first kickboxing title. And it was the ISKA light middleweight title. One of my coaches, Bernard Stiles, promoted an event here in Atlanta, and I fought for that title, and I won that. And at the time, I thought that, okay, we were told that if you win this belt, it would create
buzz, yeah,
opportunities.
It'll be the hype.
And nothing really came out of it. So that's why I said, well, I'm in my late 20s now. Nothing else is going to come out of it. So I took a new job, which was going to have me traveling. So that's why I retired, my first retirement. Did
you win the Georgia Games for boxing at this point?
Well, that was before. That's early 90s. Okay. So funny story. So early 90s, 90, I guess, 92, I started boxing. And like I said, it was just to fill in time between kickboxing matches. And I boxed as an amateur. And I went, so in amateur boxing, you have novice and you have open. And I went directly to the open division, which is for your experience level boxers. And I won the Georgia Games in 92. And then I fought a couple more boxing matches. And I fought a guy. So my amateur boxing career ended short. I got banned from amateur boxing, by the way.
How many fights did you get in, Sensei?
As an amateur boxer, I only had 3 amateur boxing matches before I turned pro. Okay, as a boxer.
That's pretty crazy. So usually boxers have like 40 or 50 or
more than that.
Yeah.
But I had maybe, let's say, 10 kickboxing matches. So I figured there was no need for, because as a novice in boxing, if you have, let's say, under 10 bouts, for example, you're considered a novice. But I went straight open. Because like I said, I was working out with some really good guys. So where I lacked experience, it was made up for in the gym. Just like you working out with those guys you work out, very experienced guys. And so I fought a guy, I won't call any names, and because I used to work out with this guy at the gym, because at that time there weren't a lot of gyms. So there were maybe 3 major gyms in Atlanta. So, if you had a gym, I might bring guys over to your gym, you might bring guys over to my gym, and then work out together. And this guy that I worked out with, we ended up fighting in a tournament. I won the fight. Then, next thing you know, I got banned from amateur boxing. So, this is why. Under the bylaws of amateur boxing or in other amateur sports, if you've competed as a professional, because I compete as a professional kickboxer. If you compete as a professional, you cannot fight in amateur boxing. I could have played professional golf. Mm-hmm. I could have played professional tennis. You cannot be an amateur boxer. Mind you, if I lost to that guy, it probably never would have come out. His trainer probably wouldn't have said a thing. But because this guy lost, he said something. And I got banned from amateur boxing. So if I wanted to box, I had to box pro. And, the toughest guy that I fought in pro boxing was a guy who, his name was Ray Downey. And funny story, and this is how I found out how you can be, how should I say, really, really mistreated by people who want to manage you in boxing. Things get corrupt. I had the mentality if I train hard, and this is a good and bad thing. If I train hard, I'll fight anybody, right? I took a fight on 2 days' notice. I didn't know who the guy was at the time, and I had just fought a week prior. It was my 4th pro boxing match. So my 5th pro boxing match, I had a great opportunity to fight on the undercard of a big event. It was being held at a casino in Biloxi, Mississippi. And the headliner, the main event, was a guy named Kennedy Mckinney. He was an Olympic gold medalist, I believe, lightweight, on the 84 Olympic team with Evander Holyfield and Tyrell Biggs, Meldrick Taylor. If anybody knows boxing, they know that one of the best boxing team was the most accomplished boxing team was the 84 Olympic boxing team. So he was the main event. One of the fighters on the undercard pulled out from an injury in training. And my coach calls me on a Friday and says, "Rich, we have a great opportunity for you to fight on this undercard." I said, "Well, who am I fighting?" Some guy. He's got a lot of amateur experiences. He's from Canada, but you'll be fine. Okay, I took the fight. So I get to the fight, and I see the guy I'm going to fight. And we're at the weigh-ins. We get on the scale, shake hands, good luck. Go to the press conference for the main event, guys. Mckinney's fighting a guy from Mexico. I can't remember that guy's name. They're doing the typical trash talk. The news media's there, pretty cool. And then the promoter says, we'd also like to recognize Olympic bronze medalist Ray Downey. And the guy stood up and started clapping. And I said to my trainer, I'm like, hey,
Is that for me?
That's my opponent. So let me tell you this. There's a reason why you have different levels in boxing. So actually, I fought a really tough 6-round bout. I lost by decision. Just was, how should I say, the lack of experience and not being prepared properly for that fight. But it showed me where I was and how far I could go. I mean, I could do well on the local level as a pro boxer. But if you look at, and people ask me all the time, Rich, how come you didn't pursue professional boxing? Because, I was in my mid-20s by the time I started fighting as a pro boxer. And, the guys I'm fighting, they had like incredible amateur careers. And, my boxing record was, I had 6 wins, 2 losses as a pro boxer. And, the guys that I lost to, they were really good guys. Mm-hmm. And anyway, that's my boxing career. So, moving forward. But one thing I will tell you this, that I got a good foundation in the sweet science, in which, as you know, we make sure that our karate students have to get a good foundation in the sweet science, because boxing hands are, it's the science of punching. And I think it's very, very important for karate students. So, like I said, so when I left my old job in healthcare, I started working as a personal trainer. And me and my buddy Pedro, we were teaching Thai boxing at a gym called the Warehouse on Buford Highway. And Pedro was fighting in MMA, which was NHB at the time, and he started doing some Thai boxing fights. He fought and he beat, I can't remember the guy he fought. He fought a Russian guy for a United States Muay Thai title here in Atlanta. He won that. He started fighting in California. And then because I was back in the gym pretty much, never left the gym, mind you, but I said, you know what, I want to get out there and compete again. And like I said, I had been eyeing the Shidokan because it had everything that I liked in one event. It still had that traditional element of the karate. You get the guys are wearing the gis, they bow, they go out and fight, and then it had a mix of the traditional and the modern. With the Thai boxing, MMA was becoming popular, so by that time, I had a good foundation in, punching, kicking, from boxing, kickboxing, taekwondo. I was, I was doing judo, and by the time I competed in my first Shidokan tournament, I was a brown belt in judo. Like I said, I trained with Nak Jun Kim. He moved, and I started training with Bob Bird, who's a judo legend here in Atlanta. And Bob Bird and Leo White, who you've probably seen at the dojo at Atlanta Judo Academy. And I said, hey, I guess it was 1999. Back then, to fight in a Shidokan tournament, you'd have to call the Hombu Dojo in Chicago. And I called Chicago Fitness Center, which is where the United States Shidokan Hombu Dojo is located. And I said, I want to compete in one of your Shidokan tournaments. And they used to have these ads in the magazines. And it would tell you what you needed to do. You call the office. They send you an application. You used to have to fill out an application to compete in these tournaments. and then they would accept X number of you know, put what you've done as a martial artist. Then I got invited to compete in the Shidokan Team USA 2000, June of 2000 in Fort Lauderdale, and I went. We trained for it from Atlanta. Me, Kelly Leo, who you've met, and Kelly Leo is one of our, instructors for Shidokan in North Georgia. We went and competed. So I won the Team USA in Fort Lauderdale in June of 2000. And by winning that, I got invited to compete on the undercard of the Shidokan World Open in Chicago. The World Open tournament that year was a 12-man middleweight tournament, and I was on the undercard as a fighting against the Canadian champion, a guy named Reno Belcastro, for the North American Championship. So that year, I won the Team USA, then I won the North American Championship in December of 2000, and then I had an opportunity to, at that tournament, I had opportunity to meet Peter Angerer, who's the branch chief of Shidokan Germany. And Peter invited me to participate in my first international tournament, which was in Germany. And this will be the first, I think you might be one of the first people I tell this story to. I get called to compete in a tournament, and I think it's going to be, I thought it was going to be a triathlon tournament. And it was going to be at 154 pounds. And, you know, I walk around anywhere between 159, 162 on a heavy day. And so I was going, I go to Germany. I train to do a triathlon tournament. Then when I get there, I find out that it's a Muay Thai tournament. Okay.
That'll happen.
Yeah. And so it was called the Shidokan SHIKO, the Shidokan Thai Boxing Grand Prix. So it was an 8-man Muay Thai tournament, and it was a little bit heavier. So I had dropped a few pounds, but then I said, well, now I can eat. But so it ended up being something other than what I thought. But it ended up being good because I did manage to win the tournament. And then from that, so that's 2001. And then from there, so from between 2000 and 2005, I said 2004 was my last Shidokan tournament, and I retired then. So I had the opportunity to win 3 Team USAs, and I won the Shidokan World Lightweight Tournament 2002. Then I retired because I tore. I started, I guess, in '96 I tore my left ACL, and I started to tear it in 2001, and it was partially torn again in 2001, 2002, had a partial tear in the right ACL. So I figured, okay, that's enough. Then 2004, I'm helping some guys prepare, and what we were doing since 2003, Shidokan Atlanta Dojo, which we started officially in 2001. And let me back up a little bit more once again. After 2001, after going to Germany, I'm with Eddie, Shihan Eddie Yashimura, who's the head of U.S. Shidokan, branch chief. I get invited to be a member of U.S. Shidokan, and I start Shidokan Atlanta Dojo 2001. So since then, for every international event, you know, I've tried to make sure that, you know, I brought students to support all of the international events. So like yourself, you've gone to Japan. We've had athletes go to France, Germany, the Republic of Georgia, Costa Rica, Kuwait, Ukraine.
Since I've been there, you've been to at least 5 countries.
Hungary, and Hungary. And I said France. Yeah. So that year, 2004, one of the fighters from Chicago injured himself the week before the tournament. I get a call from Shihan Eddie, and he says to me, I need you to fight in the, he needs me to replace the injured fighter. So I come out of retirement and fight in the welterweight World Open in 2004. And that was my last official Shidokan tournament.
So I read your book, and you mentioned you tore your ACL in a fight? Or was that
Well,
before the fight?
I said I finished tearing it. So, so like I said, the first ACL tear, let me back up. The first serious injury I had was in 96. It was 96. And I was fighting a kickboxing fight against a world champion. He was former two-time world champion Robert Harris from Dalton, Georgia. And Robert Harris is another, I need to make sure I contact Robert and get him on our show. Robert Harris was a sport karate champion, and he was also a two-time world champion. And he had retired and came out of retirement and needed a tough young guy to fight, and he asked me to fight him, and I took the fight. And the rules were American kickboxing, which is kickboxing above the waist. You can't low kick. It's basically boxing with kicks. But you can sweep the leg, so you can sweep as long as you sweep calf level or lower. And he went to sweep my leg, and his leg hit just at the right spot at the wrong time at an angle that hit my side of my knee, and I felt something pop. And I moved around, and every time I extended my leg, it would just give out. I managed to finish the fight, and after a couple weeks, I was on crutches, went to the doctor, and they thought maybe you just strained the knee. Then I had a specialist look at it, and I found out my ACL was torn. So I tore my left ACL, and then I had ACL reconstruction. I was told never to lead a sedentary lifestyle, never kickboxing. But 8 months later, I was kickboxing again, and overcame that injury. And then in 2001, at a Shidokan tournament, I was trying to throw a guy. I think I was trying to suplex him. And I pick him up, and he's resisting, using a lot of muscle. And I managed to throw him, but I felt something tear in my right knee. And it wasn't too bad, but I had a partial tear in the ACL in the right leg. And then in 2000, and we'll have to do a video, and we'll explain the matches. And I will actually show you, I was fighting a gentleman by the name of Mati Jatipadak. He's known as the Dragon Leg. And Mati, he was Lumpini champion. He's one of the top, he was an incredible Thai boxer. We fought twice in 2002, actually. And in the second match, the second time I fought him, he threw a low kick that happened to kick me right the top of the quad, and I felt my knee bend backwards. And I felt it tear. I felt that little rip again. And after that match, I remember going to the dressing room because I had another match. After that match, my knee started to swell, and I put ice on it. And I managed to make it through the finals of the 2002 World Open. And it took a few months for my knee to start feeling better. But I said, okay, maybe that's enough. That was the second retirement. Okay.
So this is now both your knees.
Right. Then, so I get called on a week's notice to fight in the 2004 World Open, and I guess I'm 38 at that time. And in the last fight, I had 3 fights that night. Everything is going great. In the last fight, I'm fighting against a very good grappler, a gentleman from Alabama by the name of David Hewlett. And I helped David. David was actually a guy that I was helping train to fight in the tournament. So in 2004, 2005, and 2006, I promoted 3 Team USA championships, and David fought. In 2004, he was runner-up. In 2005, he won. He actually won in 2005, but in 2004, the winner wasn't able to attend the World Open, so as a runner-up, he got the spot to fight in the World Open. So I was actually going to work his corner. I'd been training him, helping him prepare. Eddie asked me to be in the tournament, so I ended up having to fight, one of our guys. And
for the record, if that happens to me, I'm going home. So if I see you put your gear on, I'm in a tournament, I'm going home.
Just don't attack my knee, Pat. But so during the grappling rounds, we'll do a video. We'll show the video and go over this in the future for you guys can see. So I can show you the 2002 with Mati, and then with David. David went for a heel hook, and we both had each other's legs, and we're both trying to do some leg locks, but he was getting the better leg locks, I should say, better of the leg locks, and he put my right leg in jeopardy with a heel hook, which pops. So it popped the ankle and the knee. So it just finished the tear. But I was able to still finish the fight and fortunately win the tournament. But after that I spent the next couple months on crutches, and that was the last time that I fought. Well, okay, I got one more fight. It's not an actual fight. It ended up being an exhibition. I showed you the one in Georgia. Already, yeah. So that was the last time I did a Shidokan match. But anyway, that's how I tore both ACLs.
And like heel hooks aren't allowed at the amateur level in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? I think there's a bunch of rule sets that don't allow it.
Depending on the organization, you straight leg locks, straight ankle locks are allowed. But in some of the jiu-jitsu tournaments or grappling tournaments, depending on their level, they decide what type of leg locks are allowed. But the heel hook, when you do the heel hook properly, which it was done properly to me, it will pop the ankle and the knee. So very, very bad on your joints.
Did you tap out or did
no?
You
No.
And that's why we choke people, right?
Well, with that being said, it was the World Open. It was the finals. If I was winning the fight, and I wanted to take a chance. The competitor in me wanted to see if I could, win the fight. But from a fighting standpoint, what I always tell people, the most efficient way to finish an opponent is to separate them from consciousness. And you only got 2 ways to do that: blunt force trauma or choke, right? So we'll have Jarrell Bowman on, and Jarrell Bowman's first amateur fight, one of our guys who's one of our veteran fighters, he got his arm broken in an armbar. He's in his opponent's guard. His opponent puts him in an armbar, and he had been watching, you remember Quentin Rampage Jackson? And if you remember Quentin Rampage Jackson, he was famous for picking up Ricardo Arona in Pride. Ricardo had him in a triangle choke from the guard, and Quentin Jackson picks him up, slams him. So Jay, his opponent put him in an armbar. He figured he would pick him up and slam him. When he picks him up, his arm is straight. He did pick him up and slam him, but he got his arm broke. And that happened in the first round. But he still finished the fight. He came back after the round. He says, my arm doesn't feel right. I just told him to punch with the other one. So.
Yeah, Jay had told me that story. He
Yeah.
had mentioned that. That's why he prefers choking out people, because people have even seen him with a broken arm finish multiple rounds.
Right.
Ankle.
So, anyway, so that is my journey in Shidokan, and I want to tell you another funny story about me becoming a member of U.S. Shidokan. So, like I told you, my first Shidokan tournament was 2000, and we're in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The tournament is over. Eddie Yashimura calls for all U.S. Shidokan members to come in the ring and do a picture. I didn't hear what he said clearly. I thought he said Shidokan,
fighters,
the
yeah.
winners, all fighters. So I jump in the ring, and I'm standing, and all these people are looking at me like, what are you doing here, whatever. And then Eddie says, U.S. Shidokan members. And I'm like, oh, my bad. So I get out of the picture. But funny thing, later, like I said, a year later, I become a member of U.S. Shidokan. And so I tell these guys that they're like brothers and sisters, all my friends, and like I will call them our family in Chicago. It was meant for me to be
in that
yes,
picture.
in that picture, to be with you guys.
You're just ahead of the times.
Exactly. So anyway, so that is my my journey in martial arts and how we are where we are today. So like I said, since 2001, we have tried to develop, full contact karate fighters, and we've taken them to compete on the local level, national level, the international level, and that's what we still continue to do to this day.
When we went to Japan, we got like 6 different first place trophies, and there were only 5 of us.
Yes, well, let me back up. And like I said, so when you guys went, you were our second group that we sent to fight in Japan. Our first, of course, being Rhonda and Vinny Balsamello, and we're going to have Vinny on the show. Rhonda, she passed away a few years ago, and she went and she won the women's division. Vinny won the karate division, the strong rules karate division, and he got second in the kickboxing division. And that was 2015. So they're our first 2 fighters to go fight in the Japan Cup. And then with you guys, we got, so you won your division. John Vaughn won the, I guess it was the middleweight triathlon division. And AJ Weathersby won 3 divisions
Yes.
in one day, which, like I said, we'll have AJ on and we'll talk about his journey and a journey that continues to this day that, I don't think the world's even seen, they've seen maybe this much of what he has to offer to the combat sports world.
In Japan, he had 7 knockouts in one day.
I think it was
Maybe 6 in one decision or one. The guy gave up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, 7 stoppages in one day, which was, and like I said, in 3 different divisions. He won the karate division, kickboxing division, and the triathlon. Mm-hmm. So, and we'll definitely have to review some of the fight footage from that miraculous event. So that was a good day for Shidokan Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. Karate you want to discuss as an organization and a sport?
So when you look at full contact karate or bare knuckle karate, like I told you years ago on ESPN, the first time I saw it saw it on ESPN late night. Saw the Sabaki Challenge, and there used to be bare knuckle events hosted here in Atlanta. Okay, World Oyama, they're headquartered in Birmingham now, and they do an annual tournament. You've gone to go compete there before. We take people to go compete in Birmingham every year. They used to do that same event, the Ultimate Challenge. They used to do here in Atlanta back in the 90s. And they used to either put it on at Mercer University or Cobb Civic Center. And it used to be a good turnout because, martial artists would come out and see bare knuckle karate. At that time, you just had either, American karate or point fighting tournaments. You had taekwondo tournaments.
It's the most frustrating thing in the world is that everyone assumes I do point tournaments. And no knock on point tournaments. It's not what I'm doing.
Right.
It's hard to explain.
Right. Exactly. Right. But the most popular form of karate is the point style.
Karate Kid.
What you saw in karate. And the reason being is because it's something that everybody can do. Nobody gets hurt. Okay.
I mean, people can get hurt, but yeah.
People can get hurt, but it's you get kids to do it. You can get everybody to do it. So for a while, like I said, I remember even when I did Taekwondo, we would go and watch the Ultimate Challenge. And World Oyama, they would bring teams from different, they'd have a team from New York, a team from San Francisco, a team from Atlanta. And these teams, they have like lightweight, middleweight, heavyweight. And, these teams would fight. And they were really good shows. And as I mentioned before, when we started taking fighters from Shidokan, Atlanta to fight in different tournaments, we started going down to Alabama. And even then, I would see teams, World Oyama, they would bring teams from New York, San Francisco. I remember one year I saw some fighters from Poland and Uruguay. I had one of our female fighters fought a girl from Uruguay in bare knuckle. Now, World Oyama, they don't even do women's bare knuckle anymore. Yeah. Right?
I think there was one that Katie competed in, but that was...
Well, that was Yoshigai.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm talking about World Oyama. They used to have divisions for men and women, but now, no.
Just men's, yeah.
Right, yeah.
And only 2 weight classes.
Right. So, but there's a decline. And then, like I said, the Sabaki Challenge, which is still held every year, it used to be seen, you can see it on ESPN, and now it's much smaller. So when you look at bare knuckle karate here in the States, of course, the biggest bare knuckle organization is Kyokushin. And I mean, you got hundreds of different Kyokushin organizations. There's IKO 1, IKO 2, there's Shin Kyokushin, and there's many. But at one time, when you look at Shidokan World Open, it used to be called the U.S. Open, and it started off as a pure bare knuckle karate tournament. All of the fighters, you'd have fighters that were from all the different organizations. Enshin Karate. In Enshin, they're the ones who host the Sabaki Challenge. You had World Oyama. You had Kyokushin. You had it didn't matter. You had guys that were Shotokan, Taekwondo, Kung Fu. It was truly an open tournament. And you might look at a Sabaki Challenge tournament and you see fighters from, Shidokan, other styles in that tournament. What I noticed over the years is that changed. And it got to where now the the karate groups, the organizations don't support, the full contact karate organizations, they do not support each other. And I think that is the problem, and that's why it'll be difficult for it to become popular because everybody is kind of in their own little world. Mm-hmm. And the only way for full contact or bare knuckle karate to grow, like a sport like, Taekwondo, Judo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, is you would have to work together and, put political differences aside and get people competing and create a fair opportunity for fighters to win. Not in every martial art, what's the old saying? If you go and you fight in somebody's house, things are going to usually be biased. What I liked about Shidokan when I first started competing is that they tried to create a rule set where the fighters determine the outcome. And what I mean by that is, now when you look at a Shidokan triathlon event, it's judged like a boxing or kickboxing fight, a 10-point must system. But my first Shidokan tournament, it was scored like a knockdown karate tournament, meaning you had to somebody had to get knocked down.
Had to get knocked out.
That would not fly with today's athletic commissions. And you can't fight more than one fight in one day, right?
So that's an athletic commission rule? I didn't realize that's why they changed that.
Right. So tournament fighting, and I'm not saying you can't. I think you have the special permission by an athletic commission. So if we want to do a tournament and we go to the athletic commission and say, hey, we want to do an 8-man heavyweight tournament where the winner has to fight 3 fights in one night, they'll probably say no. So now, even when you look at an amateur boxing tournament, for example, if there's a weekend tournament, you fight Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You can't. They don't let the fighters fight 3 fights in one day. Okay. So nowadays, I don't even think you can do that. And most athletic commissions won't allow a fighter to have more than 1 fight per day.
We'll fly to Japan again.
All right. Well, if we go overseas, you
do whatever you want.
Especially you go to a place like Costa Rica, you can fight as many times as you want, right? But but like in the karate tournaments, because in a karate tournament when you're fighting, it's not like you're fighting X number of rounds. You're fighting a bare knuckle karate tournament. You're fighting 1 round, and then if it's a draw, it's overtime, et cetera, et cetera. And you might fight 2, 3, 4 times a day, but it's like, okay, it would be like doing 3, 4 rounds. Okay, so but the when you look at the WKF, the World Karate Federation, which is the organization I believe that oversees the Olympic style karate, which we'll see that style of karate in the Olympics now. It's very popular internationally because it's an organization that, regardless of the style, like for example, we could join the WKF as long as we abide by their rules, and they have a set. If you compete in kata division, for example, these are the katas you have to do, and these are the expectations. These are the rules for the kumite, and you have to follow. So anybody, regardless of style, can compete in those divisions. In that particular sport. For bare knuckle, some organizations, you can't compete in them unless you're a member of their organization. Or they won't support your tournament if you're not a member of the organization. And that's the downfall of the sport of bare knuckle karate.
Or the rules will change right before you go up and fight.
Well, and usually that's not even the case. If that's possible too. But it's not like basketball. No matter where you go in the world,
it's basketball. Yep. Coke is Coke, no matter where you drink it.
Right, and same thing with all the sports that are truly worldwide, they're played the same way. So the only way these bare knuckle could really, 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 really grow, two things. You'd have to have a set rules that everybody plays by, and organizations would have to, do away with the,
tribalism.
Right, because you got too many chiefs. Too many chiefs, and this guy wants to run it, that guy wants to run it, or they don't want to run it like me, I don't want to run it like them, so they can't work together. But they would have to come together and work together in a cohesive unit in order for that sport to grow. And so, over the years, I have seen the participation of, like when we go compete here in the Southeast, it's up and down. It's up and down. It used to be where, every year you knew there was going to be, a lot of competitors fighting in the knockdown division. Now it's hit or miss. Sometimes you might have one fight. Next year you might have two fights. So that is the problems that I see, and with the sport of full contact karate or bare knuckle karate. So what have you seen? You've had an opportunity to go, and in some tournaments you may have had three
or more. Probably not more yet.
Right.
But yeah, so one thing I think is strange is the rule set for each tournament may be different on the fly. So at one Oyama, I wasn't allowed to head kick, I believe, when I was in the blue belt below division.
Right.
And then, the next month, the rules are totally different there. Sometimes the gear will be different. Sometimes all that stuff.
Right. Well, what I think, what I always say, I think if it's a bare knuckle, if it's a karate tournament that's full contact, every division should do away with the gear, except for the kids, maybe.
Yeah, I understand that.
I think that they should just do away with the gear, because everybody's gonna have, like you said, the gear is not gonna be consistent. You know what I mean? But this is for full contact.
There are those 32-year-old guys who can't throw footballs who have their first tournament. So I'm okay with them having gear sometimes.
Right.
Because I had to enter in somehow. So,
right.
But I agree. The rules seem very flexible. And then the judging, it's always awkward because one thing I liked about the tournament you hosted was that the instructors from the other schools were judges. So it wasn't just this is my tournament, this is all my people. Yeah. Good luck, everybody else.
Well, since you mentioned that, it's like if you go to a judo tournament, or back in the day when I was coming up in Taekwondo, we show up, we're black belts, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to compete. You know what we had to do before we competed? Officiate. Mm-hmm. Me and you might be from different schools, but excuse me, we had to officiate. So what you're saying is that when you go to an event and let's say all the officials are from one place.
Yeah, one style.
The host.
Style. They were the
and
same
usually
logos.
it's the host of the tournament.
And I can understand why. It's hard to arrange all those people.
Well, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. What I try to do, if I do it for the events that I've done, if I invite other dojos, I invite the instructors to officiate. I say, hey, we had Sensei Robbie Adams from North Carolina. He came in Atlanta. He officiated. I say, hey, Sensei Kelly Leo officiate. So I try to make it a situation where, okay, we're all officiating, and therefore it takes away from people feeling like they're cheating against me.
I can say at any tournament that I've been at besides my first tournament, if someone asked me if I thought I won when someone told me I won, I would say, yeah, I won, or they would not have given it to me.
Well, in some cases that's the case, because and that's another bad thing. What I think is this: and one of the problems, not just the issue, not just is there just an issue of the officials being, your classmate, right? I'm judging you, and you're my buddy, my workout partner, and if and sometimes it might be innocent, right? Okay, but I think the main problem is this. I think even if I have our guys officiate a tournament, because, and it's going to be guys who have competitive experience, it's going to be guys who are fighters, and I think A lot of times you'll see martial arts people who have no fighting experience, and they're usually the ones who make the bad judges. I think it would be like, when you go to medical school and you're doing a certain procedure, you're being reviewed by, experienced doctors. That's not the case in karate tournaments. I might have a black belt, and they just say, okay, Richard, you're going to be an official. But I work out with Pat every day. He's my buddy, and it's close. When they say, who won? Pat, right? Red or white, whatever. So I think that's the problem there. But if I'm a fighter, I would not it's disrespectful to you to just say you're the winner if you're not. I'm hurting you, and you as a fighter you don't want me to be dishonest with you. So that's the problem.
I think it's like the same as the tribe thing. I feel like people use their wins as advertisements for their school,
right?
Not as a showcase for martial arts.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like if
Yes.
a good fight happens and everyone gets to see it,
right,
it benefits whether your person lost or won because
yes.
it'll get more people to do the sport.
And the reason, and it has to be that way in order for it to continue to be successful, because number one, you got people who are coming to your event, and if I cheat you, you might not come back. If I'm a spectator and I look at this bad judging going on, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to come back and watch this because they cheat people. People, unfortunately, don't see it that way. I can't. It's not. Everybody. I want everybody to be in my dojo to be successful. Mm-hmm. And if everybody's successful, more people are going to want to come and train with me. If that's their way of thinking about it, it's not going to last long. I think that especially in martial arts is supposed to be about respect. And it's disrespectful if a fighter is cheated for. If, I'm voting for my guy just because they're from the same organization. I'm doing that person a disservice, and I'm doing the organization a disservice. I'm doing the dojo a disservice. Because the main reason is for that person to get out there and do the best they can. It's for them. It's not just for the dojo. And I think a lot of judges probably don't even think of it like that, But like I said, that's one of the main problems I see.
Just thinking of it now, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there's no one school that's officiating the tournaments, right? It's like Fuji BJJ.
So
or
right, they bring their own. Yeah, they bring their own.
It's not like
judges.
so-and-so's style down the street that does it. For Muay Thai, it's the same thing.
Well,
too.
Here's the thing. There's no like Jiu-Jitsu, and let's say for Judo. For Judo, the officials have to be certified. For karate, you don't have to be certified, right? So when you look at a sport like Judo or Jiu-Jitsu, you have state-level referees, you have regional-level referees, you have national-level referees, you even have international-level referees, and they have to do X number of hours under, a senior referee to reach a certain level. And even if both of us are referees at the local level, there's a regional guy looking at us, and if we make a wrong call, that referee corrects it. That we do not have at
all. Yeah. Not even the concept of
the concept's not there, but that is what you would have to have. You would have to be able to say, okay, we're doing a tournament, and we have a certain standard. If you have a certain standard for fighters, meaning if we say, okay, you're fighting in the blue and above or the advanced division, black belt division, we expect you to have a certain level of competency because we got a black belt division, and you should be the same for the officials, But that is something. So all you karate organizations out there listening to us, put that in your data banks, so you go back and you need to have some form of certification of why this person is judging a match.
I agree. It seems like this would be a good time for unification. Like with YouTube, it's not like they need some major organization to push bare knuckle karate. Like you could just start posting it online, and if it picked up, it picks up. Right. In a way that we couldn't do that in the past.
Right.
It's just strange to me, as you were saying. I don't understand how Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is able to explode the way it has. Maybe because of UFC.
I think it would have done so. Now I think maybe originally, but now I think it's it has its own presence. And it's what you will see is it's become people become more business minded in the way they run their tournaments, in the way they run their schools. When you look at a lot of martial arts schools, or let's say a karate school, for example, there are some people who run Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academies and they do it for a living. Mm-hmm. A lot of your karate instructors, they don't do it for a living, mm-hmm. so they don't give it the same type of professionalism that they would do a job, mm-hmm. if that makes sense. I teach martial arts for a living, so mm-hmm. I want my students to get the best training that I can possibly give them, and I want them to be prepared. But let's say if I did this part-time, I'm not saying me, but even if I did it part-time, I would be the same instructor. But they do it a couple times a week, right? Maybe they're a black belt in a system, but they have another job. So the old school mentality was, I'm going to make it hard for you. Either you get it or you don't. I'm not going to, as I say, I'm going to make it hard. I'm not going to be, they give you but so much. And then they, you don't ask any questions. The old school karate way, you do this, you say why, you say because. That's how I learned it, that's how you do it. So you might not know or understand why you do something a certain way. If with grappling, you're gonna feel it. You're gonna learn it right then, right? Yeah. So it's believable to you. So mm-hmm. it's easier, I think, for a lot of the grappling schools to get a lot of students because you're not giving them the old school mysticism. Mm-hmm. Now. What we do, there's no mysticism. Mm-hmm. You're gonna learn if how punch and kick works. Yeah. Because the first day you come, I might say, "Here, spar with Pat," and you're like, "Oh, okay, that doesn't work."
I still remember my first day. It was a Saturday. I sparred with everyone. Yes. I got kicked in the leg. I couldn't move my leg anymore. You walked by me, and then you held me straight, and you said, "You just stand here now and throw punches." So I didn't even get to stop with a hurt leg. You're like, "Just keep going. You'll get used to it."
Right. But
so I immediately understood what was happening.
But imagine this. If I didn't do that, if I just said, okay, just stop, mm-hmm.
Or,
hey, take it really easy on Pat mm-hmm. because I don't want Pat,
I want that membership money.
Right. And then I say, okay, Pat, you come, you get X number of lessons, mm-hmm. So you stay around and then you're going to
get them indoctrinated.
Right, exactly. We don't take that approach. Yeah. I mean, I want everybody wants you to learn. Everybody wants you to get better. Mm-hmm. And if you've seen some of the culture of some of the tournaments that you've gone to, and you see how the students interact with their instructors. Mm-hmm. You may see something a little bit different than what you experience.
It can be more cult-like. It can be more mercenary too.
Exactly.
I'm not naming any names.
So let me tell you this. In a lot of jiu-jitsu schools, and you come and you're the instructor, mm-hmm. and then you'll come in and you'll come and say, "Hey, how you doing?" You come over, you give them a hug, mm-hmm. right? That doesn't happen in your hardcore traditional karate school. It's very military, very military like. Mm-hmm. So I think it's when you create that. And one thing we said earlier that we try to do at our dojo. Yes, we bow and we'll say "os," but we try to create a family environment where we, hey, if I want to talk to you about something. I mean, hey Pat, how you do this on this computer?
Yeah, we found people jobs.
Right. If somebody, if you know somebody who needs some help getting work,
introduce people to their future wives, all that stuff.
Exactly. I remember I had a student years ago who chipped a tooth, and we have Debbie. At the time before her husband retired, he was a dentist, and we sent that person to get his tooth fixed, and that you're in an environment where beyond they're not just helping me with martial arts, they're helping me with life. If I have a problem about something, I know I can go to this person. If this person opens up a business, we'll go and support that person. And I think that's a great thing that we have at our dojo is that community outreach and, help for one another. But like I said, that I think the when you look at a lot of the karate schools, you have a guy that wants to be, master so-and-so, and he wants to have he has some cool name or title.
Eighth Dan. Blah, blah.
Right. They get caught up. With Speaking of Dan's, I have a story. I was in a martial arts supply store, and I see these guys. They're talking to each other, and they're introducing themselves to each other. My name is Master So-and-so. My name is Master So-and-so. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want these guys to talk to me. Me try to stay hidden. So this guy sees me and he says, "So how are you? What is your name?" My name is Richard Trammell, right? And he says, "My name is Master So-and-so and so-and-so." He was really into this master thing, right? He was a Taekwondo guy, I was like, okay, whatever. And and then she asked me, what degree are you, or something like that. I said, well, I mean, in this particular style, I'm a 4th degree. He says, how long you been training? And I told him I've been, I'm 53 now, so I started training when I was 8. But he was shocked that, that's all, I was like what is that supposed to mean, right? Mm-hmm. But like I said, so they get caught up. So a lot of people get into martial arts, and then they want to say they're a black belt, right? Or they want to get a title, and that gives them some self-worth, as opposed to, hey, I mean, whether I'm a 1st degree or a green belt or a yellow belt, I feel good about myself. I feel good about what I'm doing, and we do it because we enjoy doing it. We don't do it necessarily to just claim a piece of paper. So, but that's a problem in the martial arts, and like you said with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu student, you got people that just get out there and just grapple and roll, and it's about the camaraderie. It's about getting out there and just doing the art. And the commercial karate schools, not all, but a lot of commercial karate schools have got into what I call selling belts. When you see, what's the youngest black belt you've ever met? Have you ever met a young black belt?
I mean, yes, but I don't take it serious.
So I've come across like 9-year-olds that were like 3rd degree black belts, 6-year-olds that were black belts, and it becomes more about selling belts and as opposed to learning true martial arts, and that's one of the problems with a lot of karate.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Like, I'll meet someone and they'll ask me what belt I am, and I'll tell them or whatever, and they'll say a belt, and I realize that designation is meaningless to me unless I know their organization well. I have to ask them what the last thing they competed in,
Well, I hadn't practiced since I was in 3rd grade, but I was a green belt.
But that's even fine if, like, what I mean? I can understand what that means, and that is a problem with martial arts in general. Is that, of course, there's no overall organizational body. It's not like a college degree,
right?
But like that's kind of how I feel like when I'm doing it. By the time I'll be a brown belt, it'll probably be 4 or 5 years. At that point, we're saying I have a bachelor's degree in martial arts, and I think that's a fair statement.
What we usually say is, like, black belt or 1st degree black belt all it really truly means, there's no difference between white belt and black belt. I mean, the only difference is that one has been doing it longer, okay? But it just means, that it's like you say, it's like finishing high school or whatever. It means that, okay, finishing, you got your degree, which means that you're now ready to go to work and you're now ready to learn. You have a foundation. You understand the foundation of your system, and now you're ready to build upon that. Now, a lot of people, they quit after they get black belt. I mean, I have a few black belts who, even in our dojo, who once they got their black belt,
see ya.
I haven't seen them since, right? And, but it's okay. I mean, I hope that for those that I don't see anymore, those students that I don't actually see, I hope that I feel that we've had a positive impact on their lives in some form or fashion, and I hope that their experiences at our dojo has been beneficial to their lives, right? Of course, I want our students, to the day I die, I want you guys to come. I want everybody that works out with me to still be working out with me, because I'm an old man and they're like my kids, right? But anyway, I still learn. I still learn, and every day I practice, I learn something different for myself, or I learn something that might better benefit my students, and that's what motivates me to keep doing what I do.
Yeah, one of the I was shopping for gyms for a while back, and the thing that was the most shocking about my first week at Shidokan is I was trying to talk to you on a Monday, and you're like, I gotta go, I got a judo class I gotta go to. And I was like, oh, this is a guy who's still learning from other people while he's going. It ain't over for him.
Yeah. Well, speaking of judo and what I like about judo, what I really like about judo, which goes back to what we were talking about with what we would like to see in the karate world. I've had the opportunity to go compete. I compete in what they call veterans division. So for each 4-year, each 4-year increment, over 30 to 34, 35 to 39, et cetera, they have these age groups in judo, and they call it masters 1, 2, 3, et cetera. And they have a national tournament. They have national tournaments for veterans, and they also have a world tournament of veterans. One of the coolest things I ever saw, 2012, the first world veterans tournament I went to was in Miami, and it was an international tournament. Teams from Russia, France, Germany, Mongolia, everywhere, and that's the only time I will see martial artists my age and older compete. It doesn't exist really in karate. We've gone to some karate tournaments. You might see a 40 and over division, and you might see a couple. But I mean, as far as guys that are really good. Oh my gosh, And then I went to one in 2016, and I saw guys in their 60s and 70s, and the camaraderie, and like I said, I don't really see that. Like we were talking about the difference between what you see and hear about with some of the jiu-jitsu schools, but from a judo, in the judo standpoint, I have never seen that in karate. I know in Japan, they have a tournament specifically for older karateka that's organized, and that's they get a lot of competitors, a big turnout. You won't see that in the knockdown styles. You know what I mean? Yeah. Most instructors just sit off on the side, don't do anything. And what I like about judo, and you've seen my judo. You've seen Sensei White. He's in his 60s, right? But he get on the mat. I try. I don't really see a lot of martial artists or karate instructors, a lot of them don't even get on the mat anymore.
Yeah.
But what fascinates me and why I enjoy judo so much is that I can still go out, get on the mat, and I'll see instructors my age and older still get out on the mat. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the main reasons that I participate in judo. You know? I mean, other than that, it's cool, it's fun, and it's a challenge for me, being a guy who, punched and kicked most of his life. To I do, that's my grappling sport, my grappling base. But one of the reasons I do it is because I've seen, guys at my age and older just having a blast. I don't see that with the karate guys. Not with the full contact karate guys. Mm-hmm.
So why did you choose judo as your base? Just because of that interaction when you were younger, or?
Well, why did I choose? So when I looked at me as the way I fight, the things that I do. Judo, I'm a student of combat, mm-hmm. and I look at various different martial arts. For what I do, the way I punch, the way I kick, judo is better suited.
Is it because of the clinch, or?
The positions, the positions that you end up in. Well, let's look at Thai boxing, for example. So, or boxing, when you get hit or you get punched really hard, you close the distance with your opponent. You usually end up in a clinch. Mm-hmm. Now, in the sport of boxing, if we clinch, the referee says break. Mm-hmm. So there is some grappling in boxing. Most people don't really just think it's just punching, but no, there is a way that you grab and the way that you clinch.
I mean, we saw it with Fury, right? That last fight, he kept leaning on him, doing overhooks, kind of tired him out.
that a lot of that was illegal. Okay, but as you see, I think he got warned. I got a point.
Yeah.
But
Mayweather does that too, though, right? He leans on his opponents a lot.
Yes. You're going to see some clinching, and there's a science to that. But you look at Thai boxing, or the way you clinch in Thai boxing, it's just a natural progression. Once somebody gets hit and they close that distance, they get close, there's a certain way you're going to grab each other, okay? And for me, I said, well, what can I do, being primarily a stand-up fighter, what can I learn that will, number one, teach me how to stay on my feet well, and, if I need to take somebody down, what science is out there to allow me to do that? And it was judo, okay? So reason being, when I was growing up, in my high school, we didn't have wrestling, okay? We copy what we saw on WWE or whatever. You wrestle in the yard. So we didn't have wrestling. So as an adult, wanting to learn how to grapple, if you wrestle, you go and wrestle in high school or college. That's it. You can't say at 25 or 30, hey, I want to go and learn wrestling. There's no place to do it.
Yeah, I don't know of a gym I could walk in and say, like, hey, can you teach me to wrestle?
There may be, but not in Atlanta. I know some judo guys who have judo/wrestling schools.
That would be the thing. I'd go to a Brazilian jiu-jitsu school and ask them if they have a wrestling coach.
So that exists, but most people don't get into wrestling as an adult. So for me, I thought, well, judo would probably be something good for me. Mm-hmm. And once I started doing judo, I had a blast doing it. I did train with some guys who did jiu-jitsu and who did shoot wrestling and submission wrestling and that kind of thing, whatever. So, but which is, specifically ground specific. Mm-hmm. But judo was that art that allowed me, because, hey, I like to kick. Mm-hmm. People are going to try to grab it. I can keep my balance. I can control balance. And that's what judo has been for me. Okay. So, and then as I studied, like I said, as we started to establish Shidokan Atlanta, when I observed, hours and hours of footage of Shidokan events and watched Shidokan fighters, what worked well, what worked best, what I didn't see this guy do. I said, you got to, you're doing bare knuckle karate, you need judo. Mm-hmm. And it has been a great benefit to our students over the years. And, as you can look at some of our guys fight, and you can look at some of our guys in action, and you say, man, they look like black belts in judo, and I'm like, no, not really. It's just that
they know
their opponents have no clue what's coming.
Yeah.
So I found that the combination of you look at like Muay Thai, because one thing we can do in Shidokan is just you can clinch, you can grab their body, you can grab their gi. If you can knee. So to not get kneed, people are either going to try to close the space, and we use that energy to throw. So the judo and Muay Thai is two important pieces of Shidokan Atlanta. So it's the basic judo. I'm not saying that they have to have like. I think even with just yellow belt level judo for the karate student is, I want our students to at least have that. They have a basic karate, and now you start to see, we do a lot more at our dojo. We do a lot of more, even just specifically with the ground aspect. Some of the jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu techniques you see being, integrated into our system even more so. So it's always growing, evolving. A couple of our students train are belted in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Mm-hmm. We even have, I don't know if you ever met Daniel Rodriguez.
He does judo with Josh, right?
Yes. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I've had a lot of time on the ground with him, and taking those lessons and pushing them into our karate program. So it's it's always we're never at a point where we're saying, you know what, this is all there is. We don't need to tweak anything or learn anything else. We got guys that get out there and when they go fight, I study. Like every time somebody fights, I study and say, okay, we can do this, we can add that. Maybe if they did this differently, we can always improve and get better. So I'm a constant student, always studying. I watch, you name the combat sport, I look at it. And if I know somebody who I can go to, I have resources that I can go to and ask any question, so.
Yeah, I had a funny exchange. I've been posting a lot of my training, right, in the morning and stuff like that. And one of my friends who did Shoin-ryu, the Okinawan karate.
Yes.
Saw me and he was like, "Oh, you're really into karate, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "I saw you sparring." And then the next day, he's like, he messages me, "I thought you did karate. I saw you taekwondo sparring." And I was like, "Yeah, that's karate." And then he sees me trying to put Chuck in arm triangle, and he's like, "I thought you did karate. What's this, right?" And then the next day he sees me throw in and it happened until finally he saw me boxing. He goes, I don't know what karate you do, but it seems like every day.
Well, exactly. So with that being said, like I said, there are certain arts that specialize, okay? And I think my philosophy, what's the old saying? Some people say you can be a jack of all trades and master of none. My goal is to be a master of all. Now, whether that's true or possible, I don't know. But it's like a lifelong journey trying to be. So let's say it's like going to high school, right? In the morning at 8 o'clock, you got math, and you got science, and you got English, social studies, etc. Maybe you're a B-level student in math. You might have a C level in science. You might have a A in social studies. I'm like, our goal is to try to get a straight A in each of our classes. But the classes that we have problems with, we just keep working on them, and we can keep getting better and better and better. I've been fortunate to be a Taekwondo player, to be a Judo player, to be a boxer, to be a kickboxer, to Thai box. So, and I've studied those things individually. So I say, well, I can have my students do these things individually so they'll get better at these different ranges of combat. And they will be comfortable. Even if they might not be good at grappling, right? But they can defend themselves. They might not be good at kicking, but they can defend themselves. They might not be good at boxing, but they can defend themselves. But at the same time, they will get better. They will get better. And if they're getting punched by somebody who knows how to use their hands, then when they have to get in a situation, they'll say, "Wait a minute, oh, that, like you said, it's not half as bad as it is in class." You know?
Yeah, definitely.
And so we're fortunate enough in that we got students who've had the opportunity to compete in, everything from amateur boxing, bare knuckle karate, judo, submission wrestling, jiu-jitsu tournaments. We've taken guys to do the Sanshou, which is Chinese kickboxing with throws. A perfect example, Josh White, our judo instructor, I met him through judo, and he started training with us, and I took him, his first time fighting was in a Sanshou tournament, and he says, "Well, what are the rules, whatever?" I said, "Just punch and kick him, and if he grabs you, just do what you do." Every time I grab him, kaboom, even though he didn't specifically do Sanshou, they're not going to outthrow him, So, I think by having a variety of things that we constantly work at, we're able to get better, and we provide an opportunity where, hey, if you want to compete in this, and some people might favor grappling, some people might favor punching and kicking, but I want everybody to have a base where they can hold their own in all facets of combat. So I think we've been doing a good job with that. And, when we train, we have the traditional elements. We have the I guess you say the modern / MMA elements. Mick, you've been in class sometimes where I've said, okay, here's a rubber knife for this person. You got 10 seconds to get off the wall. You got, we try to, we want you to still keep in mind the reality of fighting and not just the sport aspect.
Yeah, I mean, it helped me bouncing. It was nice after a few years training, going back and bouncing and being able to tell how I respond to someone based on how they stand. You know what I mean? Like the way, I see someone get in that boxer stance, I'm like, I'm going to tackle this guy. And we're not dealing with any of that. Right. And I'm just going to submit him on the floor or wwhatever, or I'm going to clinch this person.
Well, and you don't and from a bouncer, you got to be able to control people.
Yeah.
Because it would be like a police officer doing what we do, or a boat bouncer, you can't always hit people, or not if you don't, you can control them without hurting them. Mm-hmm. So I think it gives, we have a lot of tools, and we just, have a toolbox, and depending on what needs to be fixed, we pull out the right tool. So that's and like I said, so that's with Shidokan Atlanta. I want us to always be, evolving and always learning and getting better, and our goal is to try to be good at everything.
Is there anything else you want to talk about today, Sensei?
No. Lastly, I guess I want to say, we will be doing. We got some great future guests coming up. I've confirmed with a few people. I think the first will probably be Shihan Duval Hamilton. He just became the branch chief of the World Kyokushin Budokai organization. I met him maybe about 9 years ago, He had me on a couple of his podcasts, and several years ago, I had a few of our guys go fight up in New York, and he came and met with us and showed us around and hung out with us, and was very, very. At that time, he was living in New York, and he's from New York, and now he lives in Texas, and they have Dallas Kyokushin, which he's over those dojos. So I'm excited to get him on the show. And then we have, like I said, we have Jeff Ripper, Atlanta's first world kickboxing champion, which we're going to have a blast talking to him. And then we got several others, but I'm not going to mention all of them right now.
We'll probably have a programming schedule come up.
Right. Right.
And there may even be additions for another co-host. I don't know if I'm suited for this. We'll see.
All right.
I'm the shy type. So.
All right. Well, anyway, thank you.
Us.
Us.